troops would need special funding is because the Republicans cut off the money that shut down the government. That's why they need the special funding. But here's Speaker Boehner.
The government's due to shut down tomorrow. So we're going to be prepared to move forward with our troop funding bill that would fund our troops, keep the government open for another week, and cut $12 billion in spending.
I mean, that's cynical, dirty politics in a nutshell. The guys threaten to take away troops' salaries, pretend to be the ones fighting for it. All right, joining me now is Congressman Jim McDermott. He's a Democrat from Washington. Also with me, MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff. Thank you for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. Congressman, let me start with you. I know they're going over the White House. Will there be a deal? Do you know anything about it? And if there is a deal, will there be more compromise from the Democrats?
I'm very doubtful there'll be a deal because the Republicans have never wanted a deal. I voted no on the first one. I voted no on the second one. I'm going to vote no on this because you can never give them enough. They're always going to want to take more. And the president should have figured that out by now, in my view. I simply think you've got to stop backing up and say, put your money where your mouth is. We are either going to close this government down because you won't fund it, or we're not going to. I think they are going to have to give on the Republican side, but they take the position that they don't have to compromise because compromise is a dirty word and it means you've given up your principles. It is simply raw politics. There's nothing else here but raw politics. And the president has got to stand up to him and jam him against the wall.
All right, now, Richard, look, you cover the White House. You hear Congressman McDermott's frustration. You heard my frustration. Does the president here, do you get a sense that he gets that the progressive side goes, come on, please stop giving in already?
Sure he does. I mean, that's what he was saying today. That's what he said out of the White House yesterday. You know, he has reached the end of the line here, and he is willing to call a bluff because this has turned into a game of blackmail, let's face it. It was $1 or $2 billion for a couple of weeks, and now it's turned into $12 billion for 1 week. And enough already. That's what the president is saying quite clearly. I think if you're asking the question, is he going to give them something more? Well, he's given them everything they wanted to begin with, and this is moving in the wrong direction from the White House's point of view, because every time they sit down or try and talk about it, the demands get greater, they get more outrageous, and we haven't even talked about the riders or anything else. So, you know, when you look at this, you look at the polls, look at the new NBC poll, although everyone gets blamed, there is no question Republicans come off worse out of this. That's why you're seeing Republicans trying to play this naked political ploy about the troop funding bill. They know this is going to hurt them more. They're all about pre-positioning for what comes next.
How about the riders, Congressman McDermott? If the president says, all right, we'll give you 1 or 2 riders, does that add to your frustration? You know, how do you vote on that? What's your take on that?
I'm not voting for it. Listen, I've been watching these games for 40 years. I've been through budget battles since 1970, 23 of them here in the Congress, and what they're doing now is a simple old game of jamming it down his throat and saying we're going to walk away. Now, when somebody does that to you, they're not negotiating with you. They're not putting something on the table they've negotiated. They are just jamming it at you. And the president just cannot allow himself to be taken by that kind of maneuver. He has to say to them, no riders, I gave you the money, now that's the end of it. Riders have nothing to do with balancing the budget. NPR, cutting NPR does not make the fiscal situation better. Taking away Planned Parenthood does not make the fiscal situation any better, and I'm not giving you that. If you can't get it in legislation on the floor, you're going to have to try, but you can get it at your own risk. You're not going to get it by jamming me on the budget.
Now, Richard, take us inside that meeting at the White House today. What's going to happen? Is the president going to say what Congressman McDermott is saying there? No on the riders. I already gave you everything you originally asked for and $1 billion extra, and I'm not giving you a nickel more. Or is he going to go a little further down the road?
I suspect he's going to say, come on, Congressman, Speaker Boehner, you've got everything you want. What's it going to take to do a deal? You know you're going to come off worse than this. This isn't a fight the president wants to have. It's not his kind of politics. It's not his kind of politics. He did not get elected to clash heads.
Can I ask, Richard, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt,
you know that
but what is his politics? What's his...
You're not that sorry, don't worry. But it's the red and blue. Look, he was elected to unite red and blue America. He was elected to find the common ground and to come up with compromise and try to move beyond this kind of partisan squabbling. He has been dragged into this unwillingly, even at the time when he's trying to say, I'm making a play for independent voters, I'm trying to be reasonable here, I'm giving everything I can, but there is a line here and he's come up against it. He doesn't want to play that kind of game, even though Democrats are going to come off better for it. That's the kind of conversation he's got to have with Speaker Boehner tonight, because the question is, what can Boehner really deliver? Does he speak for the center of American politics, or does he speak for the Tea Party? And that's the kind of real politique that's got to be played out in the Oval Office tonight.
Who Boehner speaks for is incredibly clear. Of course he's speaking for the radical right. And he has no illusions of speaking for the center. I don't think he does. I mean, he might say it, but it's obvious to everybody watching that he doesn't. He's for the radical right. But at least he represents his position. Congressman McDermott, do you think President Obama is going to hold the line today? I don't even know why they're having a meeting if he's going to hold the line. My guess is that he's going to give him a little bit more. I mean, am I being overly cynical? And please also address what Richard said, which is, hey, listen, he's trying to find a center here. He's the president of all of us, trying to unite red and blue. Is that a fair argument?
This week, the president announced that he's running for re-election. Now, if he's running for re-election by backing down from the Republicans every time they push him against the wall, he's going to have a real tough time in this election. This is the time for him to take a stand and say, look, I have been as polite and gracious and conciliatory as I can be. I've given you everything I'm going to give you, and we are done. You do whatever you want to do. You let the country fall on its face, and I will point to the people who could not put it together.
All right, Congressman McDermott, very clear. Richard Wolff, great analysis. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
All right. And by the way, just so you know, I'm with